What's good, ladies and gentlemen? M Hunter Era back again with another video. And like I said last time, I'm gonna start doing something new. I'm gonna start just doing discussion videos. I'm gonna still, play NCAA. I'm gonna still have my gameplay and whatnot, but it'll be running in the background. But let's talk about Alabama, the trouble in Tuscaloosa, like what's going on. Now we all know that losing Saban, was going to be a big deal. We're talking about a coach who had 183 wins and 25 losses. He had an 88 win percentage. He also had 8 SEC championships and 6 national championships with the Crimson Tide. He also has been to 17 bowl games with Alabama. So we're only going to be talking about Alabama, because that's the main focus of this. Like, I'm not going to talk about his whole career, but he went to 17 bowl games with Alabama. He lost 7 bowl games. Out of those 7 bowl games, he's lost 3 national championship games. Obviously 2 to Clemson. And then he lost 1 to Georgia. And then in his last ever bowl game, maybe, I don't know, maybe he might come back sometime during the future, but I don't know. Who knows? But in his last bowl game, he lost to Michigan, who went on to win the national championship. Now, that game could have went either way in my books, but I was rooting for Alabama, but we all knew after that game that trouble was in the water. So with Nick Saban's departure, Alabama had to find a coach. Now it could stay in-house and get maybe one of the D coordinators, offensive coordinators, or it probably could have went and got Lane Kiffin, which everybody really wanted. They could have tried to get Dabo. They could have tried to get any head coach, right? But there's a head coach that is fresh on the scene. And when I say fresh on the scene, I'm talking about his name is in the lights now. Nobody knew, well, some people knew who he was, but a lot of people didn't know who this guy was. But when Washington started winning all these games, they started rolling. They beat Oregon twice. They beat Texas in the first round or the semifinals of the college football playoffs. Really made a name for himself. And that's Kalen DeBoer. Now, coming into Alabama, he had a record of 104 wins and 12 losses. Now, let's look at those wins and losses, all right? Not all of them came from a major school. And Washington isn't his first big team that he was with, coaching wise, but it is his first big team that he was with, head coach wise. So let's go over this real quick. So he was a wide receiver coach at Sioux Falls, right? An NAIA school, right? He was a wide receiver coach there, and then after the head coach Bob Young retired, DeBoer ended up being the head coach there from 2005 to 2009. He ended up going 67-3. He won 3 of the NAIA national championships. And he went to 4 consecutive. He won 2006. He lost in 2007 and went back to back in 2008 and 2009. After that, he ended up going to Southern Illinois, being the offensive coordinator and a wide receiver coach, 2010 to 2013. After that, he ended up going to Eastern Michigan, where he was the offensive coordinator and QB coach for Eastern Michigan. Right? So then, what's next? After 2016, he ends up going to Fresno State, where he is the offensive coordinator and QB coach once again. He also was hired as the head coach at Fresno State in 2020. But before we skip to that, in between 2019, he went to Indiana and he was an offensive coordinator and QB coach. So he goes back to Fresno State. This is the pandemic year, COVID-19 year. In 2020, he ends up going 3-3, right? Because the season is shortened, and people can't do things. The next year, in 2021, they ended up going 9-3 with victories over UCLA and San Diego State. And then they went to the bowl game, the New Mexico bowl game, and they lost by 7 to UTEP. In 2021, he ends up getting a job at Washington. And in his first season, he went 10-2 with the squad. They beat Michigan State, who was Michigan State hasn't been a good Michigan State team in a while. Oregon State, who is in that same tier, and they beat Oregon. He was named the Pac-12 Coach of the Year in 2022. And they finished the season with a victory over Texas in the Alamo Bowl. So 2023 comes, and they go 12-0. They defeat Oregon twice in the season. They beat Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. And once again, he is named Coach of the Year for a second consecutive season. So now he's getting the ball rolling and everything. People are thinking about Washington being a force. I mean, he is Pac-12 Coach of the Year, Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year, Home Depot Coach of the Year, Sports News College Football Coach of the Year, Walter Camp Coach of the Year, AP Coach of the Year. Everybody is saying that he is the best coach this year, at least this year. And then they end up going back to the postseason. They enter the college football playoffs to play in a Sugar Bowl against none other than the team they just beat last season in Texas. And they beat them. But then they lose to Michigan, who is definitely on the roll. So now DeBoer goes to Alabama. Nick Saban has stepped away. He's retired. And there's a lot of reasons on why he might have retired, but hey, it's out of our hands. But he ends up going to Alabama, and he takes over a powerhouse team, a team that is perennially, in the championship run every season. They start out hot, 63-0 against Western Kentucky, 42-16 against South Florida, who they struggled with last season. They go to Madison, Wisconsin, and win 42-10. They play Georgia. They go up 30-7. And this is when we felt like things were, starting to fall off for them. They go up 30-7, and then they blow the lead. They even lost the lead at one point and end up winning the game 41-34. They then lose to Vanderbilt. They had a 23-game win streak against Vanderbilt, and they blew it. I guess they were still on the, winner's high against Georgia or something. I don't know. But then they come back, they beat South Carolina. But then they go on the road and lose to Tennessee in a close game. And then on homecoming, they bounce back and beat Missouri 34-0. Then they beat their arch rivals, I guess you could say, LSU 42-13. They beat Mercer, who is just a wipeout game. And then they just recently they get crushed by Oklahoma. So what's the issue? Let's take a look at the stats. Total defense. Tell me if you ever heard this. Alabama ranked 28th. By the way, this is recorded on Black Friday, so this is before the Auburn game. They are ranked 28th with 325 yards given up on average per game. But their scoring defense is top 10. In fact, number 10 at 17.55, so 18. But they rank at 63 in rushing defense, giving up 144 yards per game. And they also ranked 17th in passing offense with 181 yards given up. Jalen Milroe is ranked 49th in passing yards, like total passing yards, at 2,396 yards. It's crazy how many pages I had to scroll through, but their leading rusher, who is Jamarian Miller, ranks 128th in total rushing yards with 557 rushing yards. So I think it's more of a coach thing. I think Alabama's trying to get used to DeBoer and his style of play, his methods and whatnot, in comparison to Nick Saban's, and who was more, I guess, military style kind of. And honestly, maybe DeBoer, I don't know. I never played for DeBoer. I don't know what goes on at practice, but the culture is shifting. They also running more spread stuff, and in comparison to Nick Saban running. So blaming on the coaching, maybe. I mean, they got the weapons, they got the players to be great, but I don't know. But I really hope that they do, straighten up, because these next few seasons, I mean, it's on the board now. It's on him. But anyways, if you like the video, comment, subscribe. Let me know how y'all feel about Alabama. This is my first discussion video, so just I'm working on it. I'm working on the timing. I'm working on the topics and stuff. But until then, I'll see y'all on the next one. I'm out.